It was not a loud noise, but I could hear it from across the room. I had trained myself to listen for it. The sound of air being slowly pulled in through the nose and held deep within the lungs. Sometimes so very slowly it would be noticed by no one else. Sometimes it was held for seconds, and other times it was held for what seemed like a lifetime. And then the sound of air slowly being released. I heard this sound for years. I remember once wondering if she had always done this, or if it was something that had developed over the years after her journey of motherhood began. Sometimes I would hear it just before she released on me her fury of words over something stupid I had done. Sometimes I would hear it as she sat down to dinner to listen to our unending stories of friends, school, and activities, to our complaints about the food we were expected to eat and the homework we were expected to do. Sometimes it was at the grocery store as she slowly wrote the check for the groceries when we were struggling to make ends meet. Sometimes it came from the front seat as we made our long journey to Tennessee to visit my grandparents. In the back, we sat complaining about the length of the ride, the cramped accommodations, the lack of stops, and the brother who wasn't touching me, but whose finger was held steadily just millimeters from my nose. My dad sat in the front seat, slowly losing his temper, and all the while she wondered if we truly had enough money to make the trip, and would the car last. I remember laying in a hospital bed once, about age 6, heading in for some tests. Routine, they said, no big deal. But as they wheeled me away and she handed me my stuffed lamb for comfort, I clearly recall her taking in that breath and holding it deep within her. I don't remember hearing the release, but I imagine it happened just moments after I passed through the double doors, or maybe she held it until she was back at my side. When at 17, I sat across a room from her in tears, explaining how I had driven her car into a mailbox on a road I shouldn't have been on, she said nothing, but I heard the breath. One afternoon, as we sat in the living room of our home, I recall the deep breath and the slow release that came right before the announcement. She and Dad had decided they could no longer be together. Their marriage was ending, and our lives would be forever changed. Months later, as we sat across from each other sharing lunch, my trained ear heard as the deep breath came again. I prepared myself. I knew this sound was never without consequence, and this time was no different. This time, she told me she was remarried, moving to Germany, and my younger siblings would be going with her. Now I took my own deep breath. Maybe the first, I can't be sure. For years, I associated this sound with her preparation to deal with us, her children, the 5 of us, our many demands, our many needs. But then I stood beside her one afternoon, and I heard her take in the slow, deep breath. I looked at her, elegant yet exhausted, dressed all in black. She held that breath for what seemed like an eternity, and then I heard the slow, steady release. And at that moment, I realized it had nothing to do with us, and never did. It had everything to do with her. She was drawing in her strength to bear the world for us. She was taking a moment. How will she handle this? How will she sustain the life she has built? How will she protect those she loves? As she stood in front of the crowd with 4 children at her side, behind her, a memorial to the Marine, the young man, the son, one of her babies. How many words of sympathy can she handle? How many hugs can she accept? And now how many times can people say they were grateful for her sacrifice? How many before she breaks? A deep breath. And now, as I take my own deep breaths, I hope my children know it's not about you, but about me. How strong can I be? And if my mother is any indication, I can bear the world on my shoulders if it means you won't have to.